Hi everyone, and welcome to another Radical Randy Activist production. Today's meme, Free Trade, Myths and Reality. A major article of faith of neoliberal capitalism's trickle-down economics is the necessity of free trade, removing subsidies, tariffs, quotas, and import restrictions and implementing treaties to promote international trade.
And everyone benefits. It's David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage.
According to this early 19th century British economist, overall general wealth will increase if countries concentrate on producing what they are most efficient at, with the least opportunity cost, and then trade freely without restrictions for what they need. But the principle of comparative advantage only works to everyone's benefit if investment money is immobile, so it can't flow from high-wage to low-wage countries. Also, full employment and balanced trade are needed. Yet, comparative advantage is trotted out to justify free trade despite its total lack of relevance to the real world.
While free trade loosens restrictions on capital flow, it lets investment money go where it's needed, so it produces development and helps people.
This mobility lets foreign investors pursue whatever investments will maximize their profits, but also lets them pull this hot money out again without warning. This led to the destabilizations and collapses of Latin American and Southeast Asian economies. This threat of capital flight holds countries hostage, discouraging the banning of sweatshops or passing environmental regulations.
While the huge U.S. investment in Canada under NAFTA created new businesses and jobs.
The vast majority of U.S. investment after NAFTA went to buy up existing Canadian businesses, not starting new ones.
But free trade treaties like the WTO stimulate development and lift countries out of poverty.
Growth in developing countries obeying the dictates of neoliberal globalization has been half what it was in the decades before. Lowering tariffs can bankrupt new industries in poor countries. Meanwhile, rich countries subsidize their corporations' agricultural exports to developing countries. This free trade looks more like rigged trade. Rather than advancing up the manufacturing ladder, these countries wind up stuck with dead-end assembly factories and garment sweatshops. And even when a country's GDP does increase, the benefits often go overwhelmingly to a small elite.
While China and India's economies sure grew with free trade,
China used high tariffs to build its industrial base and imposed foreign ownership limits and local content requirements. India's high growth rate began before the free trade era, with manufacturing tariffs and severe restrictions on direct foreign investment. Both achieved growth by engaging in gradual, controlled trade liberalization, not the surrender demanded by global investors.
but industrialized countries like England and the U.S. got rich through free trade.
Britain and the US only adopted free trade policies after achieving market dominance through tariffs and subsidies to encourage their infant industries. The same is generally true of other economic successes, such as post-war Western Europe and Southeast Asia's tiger economies.
Free trade creates more jobs here.
In reality, free trade has been a job killer, wiping out many North American manufacturing and telecommunications jobs and outsourcing them to low-wage overseas sweatshops. Corporations use this threat to drive down wages here.
Well, even with all its problems, free trade was a natural, unavoidable development due to new communication and transportation technologies.
The form of globalization we now have was a political choice, promoted by economic elites for their benefit, with nothing inevitable about it. Far better is certified fair trade, in which labor and environmental standards are monitored along the entire supply chain by independent third parties. Neoliberals argue that trade brings new technologies and economies of scale needed for a country's development. But this doesn't mean trade should be free trade. These treaties have been instrumental in playing developing countries off against each other to see which can offer transnational corporations the lowest wages, weakest pollution laws, and biggest tax breaks in the global corporate race to the bottom. Want a better world tomorrow? Fight corporate rule today. To view other YouTube videos in this series, just click on the Radical Randy Activist icon, or click subscribe, or search for Radical Randy Activist. For web and news sites, books, DVDs, and much more on this and other economic and political topics for Alberta, Canada, the US, and the world, check out edmontonactivistresources.org. And for more information on free trade myths, check out the books, DVDs, websites, and online videos by the following authors. Also, watch the Radical Randy Activist corporate rule video.